Everyone, Singletrack Samurai. It's been a minute since I've had a chance to sit down and make a video. Admittedly, I've been a little tied up riding my bike and organizing events. But today what we're going to talk about is the grand depart for the 10th Annual Tally Tango, a route originally created by Matt Bull. And over the past 10 years, we've added 3 more routes, including a dirt road / gravel route called the Tango Through Hell or the Tango Light. More on that later, as hell got hellacious because of Hurricane Helene. Talk about alliteration there. Also, Team Samurai had a chance to ride the route as part of the Quadruple Crown series that I put together for the bike packers this year. It's 4 different routes, all of them dirt road / gravel focus. The goal was to finish them all in the season, and the Florida bike passing season goes from October to May. So it's quite a staunch feat, about 700 miles of dirt road riding in a few months. So it's been an interesting season so far. And today I'm going to give you just a little recap about the grand depart, which went off without a hitch, and about how Team Samurai did on the route, which we were successful. We got it done. If that's all you needed to hear, then you're good to go. You can just turn off the video and go about your day. But if you want to hear the fine details of the grand depart and the finer details of our ride on the route, then stay tuned. When Matt Bull approached me to organize the Tally Tango for him, it was truly an honor. The first thing I told him was, yeah, let me go up there and take a look at the route. And we went and we rode the route. And I could see that his knowledge and ability to put together a route was right in line with the way I like to do things. So it was a no-brainer to team up with him to organize this first ever bike packing route in the Panhandle. So pretty historic in terms of Florida bike packing history. And over the years, I've kind of refined what I do for the folks. And what we do for the Tango is the night before we have a little meet and greet. And it's been in various places over the years, but this year and probably the past 3 years, we've done it at Ology Brewing Company and Distillery. This place is really nice. They got a beautiful outdoor area, and the meet and greet is a wonderful opportunity for riders who made the long journey or the short journey, because we get a lot of locals, to congregate and talk and just share their feelings about the route, or perhaps just catch up with each other, because a lot of folks keep coming every year. I mean, I wish I knew who's done every tango that we've put on, but I really don't know who that may be. There may not be a person, but there's been people who've done at least 8 or 9 of the 10, which is a lot of miles and loops in the Tallahassee area, and I appreciate those folks a ton. On top of that, aside from them coming and having some drinks and hanging out, I buy them pizza. I mean, because why not? Pizza's fun. People like to eat food. And while they're eating pizza and talking to each other, I'm over there checking folks in and handing out patches. And that's what I do. Traditionally, I try to make the start of a grand depart iconic in some sort of way. Aside from the Huracan and the Florida Divide, I typically start at sunrise. And that's how we've been doing the Tally Tango for a few years now. We start at sunrise. And if you take a look at the start video, which I'll post right now,
like $3, he said.
Thank you, Michael. Have a blast. Buen camino. Woo, 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 woo. Get it, guys. Looking good. Buen camino. Awesome. Go, Matt.
You'll see that I messed up the start just a little bit. I kind of sent them off 10 minutes early. I really don't know what happened. I was looking around and it looked bright enough to be sunrise for me, so I sent everyone off, and it was just a slight mistake on my part. And admittedly, I felt a little bad because like 5 or 6 riders showed up after the gun, so you can see their starts here. But the good news is the way I score events, I base it on their start time and their finish time. We use track leaders for entertainment purposes only because sometimes satellite trackers don't work right. And now that we're using the phone app, sometimes if the cell goes out, a person will disappear for an hour and then re-pop up when they get cell service again. So it's not consistent enough for me to use it strictly for scoring to confirm that they did the route, 99.5%. So instead, I use their start time, their finish time, and verify their route data off of their Strava or their Garmin Connect file or their Ride with GPS file that they use and exported from their GPS head unit that they have on their bicycle. It's just a nice way and an easy way for me to confirm that the times are accurate. And surprisingly enough, sometimes the track leaders and those tracks like mesh up perfectly, and sometimes they don't. Just stuff happens, especially lately. I don't know if there's some sort of satellite war going on out there, but the GPS things have been doing weird things lately. Not the head units, but the trackers themselves. So who knows? Who knows what's going on? Maybe it's solar flares. I don't know. Start went off without a hitch. Immediately when we were done, after we grabbed some quick breakfast and ran into a little piggy, we continued to St. Mark's. Last year when we had riders go through St. Mark's, at that point, because most of folks are riding the original route now, that's the perfect spot for them to get more water because there's no other store on route but that visitor center. Well, the visitor center was not too stoked that we used up all their water. So this year, Tony, myself, and my friend Steve, we went ahead and we posted up at a good spot at the end of one of the levees with a bunch of water just to give riders water. Plus, it gave me a chance to take some photos. And I caught a lot of pictures of riders coming through, and it was interesting to hear their stories of the route. Some riders were reporting that conditions were horrendous. Some riders were saying that conditions were fantastic. It was pretty funny to kind of hear that contrast of stories, how some people absolutely were loving it and some people were absolutely suffering. More on that later. I'll share what we thought when we hit it. From there, once we were sure that the bulk of the riders had come through and everyone had gotten water, we took off to Myron B. Hodges Park, which is just a little bit south of Sopchoppy, and set up our camps for the night. That's where our location would be for Samurai Camp. I really like that spot. It has showers, it has electricity, it's right on the water, beautiful shady spot. It is off-route, especially this year. It was off-route for everyone because a week before Matt had gone out there to Tate's Hell to kind of scout things, and essentially Tate's Hell had been made extra hellacious by Helene. Helene had pushed a ton of storm surge into the New River, which caused its banks to overflow, and Tate's Hell is essentially a swamp. It's a basin, so it really held the water. We could have sent the riders through there, but it would have took what normally would have been like 5 or 6 hours to traverse. It would have added about 10 hours to it. And I just thought that was excessive, especially since I have this network of routes. I knew that I could add other things to make it compelling. So Tango through Hell went on to become the Tango without Hell, and the 277 got reduced to a 205, the shortest it's ever been. So it was a good opportunity this year for the riders to have some fun and see what we could do on some slightly different courses. We saw about 20 or 30 riders come through camp. About a dozen stayed the entire night. Some just stayed for a little bit, drank a couple of beers, ate a couple of my famous grilled cheese sandwiches, and then they took off. Some riders slept until like 3 a.m, and then they took off. So it was interesting to see what folks were choosing to do. I try to make sure I stay impartial and not influence their decisions. It's kind of part of my personal creed. Tony and we were set to start our tango the next morning at sunrise, which was 7:35 or so, supposedly. So we left camp around 4 a.m, drove to the start, and started packing up. The good news is we were able to park and pack without getting wet. But as soon as we loaded up our bikes, a drizzle started, and it was essentially the entire day was just overcast and drizzle.
Oh, hey, good morning, everybody. Singletrack Samurai. We are off to a late start. It's 8:11. Yesterday, the riders started their tango. Today, we start our tango. Tony Valley and I are on a mission to do this as quick as we comfortably can. I didn't ask too many questions about the route, but what folks told me is St. Mark's levees are a mess, obviously because of the storm. And there was one really bumpy, sandy section, but who knows what that means. And that's the consensus of what we heard, halfway point roughly. Halfway for them, 142 miles for us, that's what I heard. And then there's a tree down, Ben says, somewhere in there. So towards the end, 195 he said, so that's what's up. We're rolling, let's go. I have an injured hand from chopping wood for the riders. 6 hours of wood chopping with Grand Partain, hands destroyed. Oh man, oh yes. Of course, as always, no chesties. We're riding one-handed right now. This is the early part of the Tango Light Route. The biggest danger through here is having too much fun. That's the only thing that could happen. You could have too much fun and cook a corner. Morning.
Okay, so this is how Tally Tango 2024 went. So I've done this route, not this route, but I did the 177 twice and the 165. So this was the Tango without hell, attempting to do for the gravel series this year. Our goal was to start out at sunrise on Sunday morning because we had to do Samurai stuff up until then. We didn't quite make it at sunrise. We started out at 8:11 in the morning. It went pretty fast at first. We were on bike path and then we were on some dirt, and it was really cool to see how this route intersects with the other two routes that I've been on, which 177 and 165 are almost exactly the same anyways, except for the 12 miles of Oscilla. But that was interesting to me to just watch my route and see what was so familiar around me. And it made me feel really fast because I got to cut out all the stuff that I really don't love for the beginning of that ride, which is the single track. So I felt like it was going really pretty fast. I felt like we were riding really strong. I felt good. Like all my training had been paying off. And then whenever we would take a break, we were trying to make it super quick because we had a certain time goal that we were trying to meet. So we had a break in Shady Grove.
I extended it out a bit to the east and used some of the forgotten Florida route and some of the Florida Divide to add a little bit more dirt roads. And that was really great because we had some legitimate Garmin identified climbs on the routes. I spent a lot of time in the aero bars after the Mid-South. My palms and the bottoms of my feet were just trashed. And then I had been trimming trail and just really messed up my shoulder. So I had to spend more time in the aero bars just to kind of compensate for that damage to my limbs, because there was no way I was backing out of the challenge. So I had to kind of just push through. And the roads were great. We did a lot of beautiful dirt uphills, a lot of nice downhills. We didn't stop until we were 100 kilometers in, and we were able to do that because of the cooler temps. Tony and I have been riding all summer, so we were very heat adapted. So the fact that the temps were a lot cooler because of the overcast and the drizzle made it that we could go a lot farther on 2 or 3 bottles of water than we normally could all summer. Like all summer, 20 miles would be 3 bottles. Well, on this day, 100 kilometers was 3 bottles. We made a quick turnaround at Shady Grove, rode along the road. At one point, the cows started running from us and we were accidentally cattle rustling. It was kind of funny.
Unintentional cow wrangling. That's what's going on right now.
We got into St. Mark's right when the sun was setting. Was the first time we got to see the sun all day.
Pinhook, we got there. I was kind of surprised to see it because I maybe didn't really know where I was as I was just riding along daydreaming. So that was really exciting that we got there. The weather was perfect all day. I guess it was raining when I look back on photos. I don't really remember that, but I wasn't hot, which that drives me crazy when I'm hot on a bike. So the fact that there was no sun and it was raining was just perfect for me.
St. Mark's is just beautiful. It's a really pretty area. And contrary to what everybody had said, we thought St. Mark's was rolling really well. I thought it was in great shape.
When people were coming out of St. Mark's and we were taking pictures of them, we were told that it was really tough, it sucked a lot, and if you didn't think it sucked, you might be a prick fuck, and apparently I am, because it did not suck, not at all. It went really fast. The other times that I've been through there, I've been on my mountain bike and I was on my gravel bike, and so it went really fast. Yes, there was this sort of grassy stuff everywhere, but you just ran over that, and there was kind of a path to go through anyways, so I felt like we were lucky in that section.
We've finished about half of the route. It rained all day. Everything's a little more resistant, a little more tacky than usual, but so far so good. Sun is, first time we've seen the sun all day and it's setting.
Yeah, there were some grassy spots, but maybe it was because everybody else had gone through. They had really beat down a path, or maybe it's because we've been riding all summer and not, staying out of the heat, and we're in really good shape. It just didn't seem that bad. And we weren't disappointed. We were kind of happy it didn't seem that bad. In fact, all the washout, there were 2 washout spots. We were able to ride right around them. And we made quick work of St. Mark's. We got out of there. It got dark on us.
Very cool Halloween house. It is dark now. Darkness found us. We are still pushing forward though.
Stopped real quick at a gas station to grab cold beverages, and then we rode into the night, eventually making it into Sopchoppy a little after 11 p.m. I wanted to catch a quick nap at the Depot Park, which is a really nice park. Super, man, Sop Choppy's really stepping it up. That park is super pretty. Took a quick nap. We all kind of rested a bit, and then we went into the hardest part of the course, which is Apalachicola National Forest. And, you know, that seemed to take forever. It's like we went into a vortex of a spiral of time suck. I have no idea how we spent from 12 a.m. midnight till 2 the next day trying to get, you know, what seems like a short distance. But at some point, the sleep monster was just riding my shoulders and really wearing me out. I was falling asleep. I would consume caffeine. It would do absolutely nothing. I just begged Tony. Tony was really pushing the pace, and I just begged her. I'm like, I need to sleep. That's the only way to solve this problem. And she, thankfully, is a good teammate. She honored my request. We laid down on the side of the road in a little patch of grass I found. I took my ground cloth, and instead of putting it on the ground to lay on it, I laid right on the grass and covered myself with the ground cloth because the mosquitoes were savage. And I immediately fell asleep. And I have no idea how long we slept. It could have been 5 minutes. It could have been an hour. It could have been 3 hours. Eventually, Tony got us up, and we got out of there. And again, it was just a slog. I kept trying to push the pace because now I felt refreshed and energized, and it was at this point that now Tony was hitting her low point. And she was in a slog. And we just did our best trying to make it through there. We made a brief stop at Silver Lake Recreation Area to get a little more water. And we pushed onward.
Sop Choppy late, and we decided that we wanted to take a break in a pavilion somewhere. And Steve and I got a little lost getting there, but we found it. We all napped for a little bit and then got back on course. And for the next 50 miles, those next 50 miles were kind of slow, not terribly slow, but getting slower as the night like just went on and on and on. And eventually, somewhere between there and Silver Lake, Carlos was super sleepy, and we had to lay down kind of on the side of the road somewhere, just a clearing on the side of the road. In some dirt road somewhere, I have no idea where we were. In the hour and a half that we were laying down, only one truck passed us, so pretty desolate road. But we laid down for maybe an hour and a half, fell asleep immediately. We all had our emergency sleep stuff to just take a quick nap there. But when I got up there, then it was like the ride hit me. It was so hard, like my knees were wrecked, my back was stiff, could have slept there on the side of the road for hours, honestly. So after that, I was definitely slow going. Then we got to Silver Lake Recreation Area, and then I felt really...
Sometime after sunrise, we hit the edge of town to a set of ATV trails that are behind the airport. These ATV trails are obviously not maintained because I don't know if it was deadfall from Helene or deadfall from the tornadoes, but that area was a mess. And not only was it a mess, but because it has seen no traffic, it was a sandy mess. That area, I'm normally able to pedal, whether I'm on a gravel bike or a mountain bike. I couldn't do anything. I had to walk the entire thing. It took us every bit of 2 hours to go 3 miles. It was pretty savage. It was a real butt kicker. Once we made it out of there, though, it was a sense of relief, and it's time to now ride the system of bike paths to get to the finish. And we're climbing and descending and zigging and zagging. Finally, we reached that last bit of single track. I'm trying to push the pace up front, but poor Tony is struggling. Eventually, we pop out. The finish is right there, and we wrap up our ride. And we were just so happy to be done.
3 miles of the ride were really tough, but it was really nice to get back onto pavement, see Tallahassee, more familiar terrain. The last couple of years when I did that route, the last 6 miles or maybe 3 miles of single track, I'm usually able to like power through and sprint to the end, and I'm so excited to get to the end. This time it was, I went pretty slow over those bumps. Well, maybe the first year I remember I did this, I stomped my foot during that single track and said I'm never getting back on my bike again. But the next 2 times I did it, I sprinted through there. This last time I was more like the first time, where I was just sluggish going through, couldn't wait till the end. And we finished, and it was a successful bike packing event. I definitely felt like throwing my gravel bike Virginia in a dumpster and setting it on fire. I was pretty upset with just how bad I felt at the end of the ride, but I was glad to be done with it. We finished it in, I think, about 31 hours or something, and couldn't wait to get back and do the next event.
It took us a little over 30 hours to finish the whole thing, but it wasn't as fast as we wanted it to be, but we did the best that we could considering the conditions. When I finished that ride, I was even more injured than when I started the ride. My left big toe was completely purple. These different shoes I use were no help, just completely purple. It's still purple, and it's been almost 2 months later. As soon as I was done, I knew that I had to change my entire cockpit before we went into Kings Road. So I did. But that story is for another video. If you've hung in this far and you watched the entire thing, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you soon. Stay tuned for the next one.